welcome in everybody to another episode of Scurry and the Scrub. We got another NBA edition special episode for you guys. We got our guy Cole Huff back on. Excuse me.
What would you call
And,
Hulk
my
Huff?
man,
Hulk Huff, man.
I was gonna go Hulk Huff. That was
Shout out Tyler Clement.
But yeah, we got another episode for you guys. Excited to get into it, kinda, because the Celtics are out. So I'm not that excited, but it has been an exciting first round of playoffs. Ready to jump into this. How you guys doing?
Well, I mean, how's Cole doing, man? His Clippers finally
Pulled it off last night.
Didn't disappoint,
Yeah.
right? They pulled
I
together.
was awaiting the collapse. The
Prepare for the worst.
the yearly Clipper collapse, but they gave us a scare in the fourth quarter. The lead went from like 18-7, and it was the longest quarter of the Clippers year for sure. But they pulled it off. Ultimately, they're the better team. It was a fun. I mean, it was a fun series to watch. So to wrap that up, I'm doing just fine. I'm doing great.
Are they the Kings of LA now? Because they're still alive and the Lakers are done.
Oh, stop.
Hey, I'm just asking questions.
I'm not gonna say that.
No,
I can never throw it out there like that.
What
They're
would
better
be?
team, but they're better.
They got to
team,
get
but
their
not the Kings
first
of LA, though.
championship. They got to get their first championship before you say anything about them owning any part of LA.
They're never gonna own LA. Like that's no. They're better though. They're a better team than Lakers.
They are a better
You say
team
that.
than the Lakers this year. I'll give you that.
That's kind of like the Nets Knicks thing, right? Like, I think when the Nets got like Kyrie and KD and whatnot, and they were like, "Oh man, this is New York's team." Like now,
New York was like, no,
yeah.
The fans will never cross
Right.
that bridge. Like, yeah, they're never gonna cross over.
because
No matter
that's
what.
it's just because that's built on history. It has nothing to do with
Yeah.
how good the team is that year. It's built on history.
Right. And I mean, for the Knicks, though, it's not a great history. Like, it's an overrated history. But Knicks fans are like that, though. Like,
Don't tell them that though.
No, you can't tell them that. It's like, how,
But-
it's very, but
Go ahead.
they only been to the finals like once my whole life. My whole life.
The
one
Knicks?
time.
True.
Yeah. And they lost. And MJ had to retire for them to do it. I guess they've been to two.
But at least
They've been to
but at
two.
least
They went San Antonio beat them in the lockout year where everybody was like, that was the first year without MJ in the lockout year. The Knicks made it as an 8th seed.
It's also a lockout year. So.
Yeah. Tim Duncan worked him over as a rookie. And then they made it the first year. So the first year Jordan retired out from the Bulls, they made the finals and lost. That's it. That's their claim to fame.
I guess we just gotta if we're waiting on the Knicks, I guess we're gonna have to wait till LeBron retires. Is that the logic I'm hearing here? Wait till the GOAT retires?
Well, the point is, no, you got to keep waiting. It's always a waiting game. When Trae Young, like that's what I tweeted it out when it happened. Like when Trae Young went to game one where he hit the game winner and then shushed the crowd. I was like, that's a playoff tradition for me. Like growing up, I always watch an absolute stud go to MSG with a Knicks team that's like really good, and then just like cook and then beat the Knicks and like shush MSG. So like I'm always used to hearing a quiet Madison Square Garden crowd.
I know you did not just compare Trae Young to Michael Jeffrey Jordan. I know you did not.
Michael, Reggie Miller, like
Reggie.
you name it, dude. Yeah, like so many dudes.
Good. I'm glad you put somebody else in there.
And, like,
Garden killers.
What happened during the last? Okay, so the last lockout season was in 2012. That's when the Heat won. But like, where the Knicks were good that year too, right?
Right. They had
that was when they had Melo.
Yeah.
I think they had Chauncey Billups, right? Too.
Maybe as well. I thought Raymond.
They might have. Yeah.
It might have been. They might have started with. I think that might have been the year they got him halfway through.
Yeah.
Tyson Chandler was on that team too.
Tyson Chandler, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
that
they
was
had
weird because the year before Dallas had won, and then Tyson Chandler left. Like Dallas didn't retain him, and he went to New York. Yeah, okay, I remember that year.
Knicks were good that year. Former Bulls bust Tyson Chandler.
He had a really good career. I don't know.
He did have a
solid career,
but it's like campaign right now. He's having a good career in Phoenix, where he's like starting to come up. But he was a Bulls flame out too. It's like, man, all these dudes would get great after they leave Chicago. It's like,
is Jerry Krause still there when they drafted Tyson Chandler?
Yeah.
Was his name Jerry Krause? Yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, no, he was part of that team for sure.
Okay.
I don't remember the last team he assembled, but I can't remember. But Yeah, but Reinsdorf is still the owner, so it's still the same crap.
Mm.
Still the same system.
Right.
So yeah.
So not to change gears too completely though, but you did allude to the fact that you were waiting on the Clippers to break down last game. Do you think you're still just waiting on the breakdown? Or are you confident now? Are you confident in Clips?
In terms of making it to the next round, or
Making
what?
it through round two.
Yeah, so I guess like how they match up with
Yeah.
Are you actually, let me put it this way. Are you more confident after this series or less confident in their chances to get the conference finals?
I'm more confident because of what they overcame, like being down 2-0 and then being down 3-2 and not folding. I mean, it's not great to be in those situations, but they didn't fold, where I think, so many other times in the past, it was easy for them to just, pack it up. Utah's certainly a better team than Dallas, in my opinion. Like, I mean, Luka's the outlier. I don't think anybody in the rest of the playoffs is, I don't know. That's debatable. Quite as good as Luka, but the way that Utah plays and the pace that they play at, and they get to the paint and spray and shoot all these threes, like they're tough to deal with, man. And I think it's going to be interesting because the Clippers ended up having to go small last series because Zubac couldn't be out there with Luka, and it was creating a bunch of problems. So they put Batum in the starting lineup and went small, and I mean it worked. And so it's almost like, well, do you stick with it, or is it a new series now? You go back to Zubac because, I mean, I love Boban, but he's no Rudy Gobert. You know what I mean? So that's going to be interesting. Just the two styles, and how the coaches coach against one another is going to be big. But I mean, I'm fairly confident, which is a dangerous game to play. Whenever you're rooting for the Clippers, you get too confident, and then they humble you. But I'm confident in them. I think if it goes 7, it's gonna be hard for them to win a game 7 in Salt Lake City. So they want to win the series. I think they're gonna have to do it before that. But yeah, I'm pretty confident. I like their chances.
Yeah, in my
Talk to
experience,
me.
it's better to win in 6 in Salt Lake City, but it's just
Oh, okay. Last shot.
It's just what I'm used to. It's right there, Yeah, this series is interesting because I really like Utah, but I also think
very, very complete team,
right? They just they shoot the 3 ball really well. They move it really well, and then they defend where you want to defend, like in this day and age, right? Like the rim and 3. Like I don't know. I think like LA is gonna match up with them first and then adjust from there. Like I don't think they're gonna start small in game 1. I think they're gonna put Zubac in there and try to match up with Rudy better. It's gonna be interesting though, because like the Clippers had a tough time attacking the rim. Mainly, I mean, Dallas was playing the zone, so that made it tougher. But I think Boban's size also was a big factor. Like, the Clippers didn't really try to get to the rim at all. They tried to get, into the mid-range area so they could move the ball, kick it out, and make Dallas's defense kind of rotate from there. I don't know if that's going to work against Utah, so I don't really know how this matchup goes. But the Clippers have the best player in the series, so I feel like in the early rounds, that always is a big, big kicker. You know what I mean? When you have the best dude in the series and he's playing at a high level like Kawhi's playing, like, I mean, he put up unbelievable numbers and defended Luka the last couple of games. Like
so efficient.
So I don't know. That was a championship gear in game 6 and game 7.
Yeah,
like that's
easy.
There's difference between putting up numbers, and being productive, and then there's like taking the game over. And I thought with it wasn't every possession because you just can't shut down Luka like that. Like you can't clamp him like that. But he made Luka work really, really hard.
He was gassed by the fourth quarter.
Yeah, nothing left.
I just thought what gave me the most confidence is, like you're saying, with the Clippers, Kawhi kind of turning it up to another level. Like I think he only really got in that offensive groove. I'm gonna say game 5. It could have been sooner, but I think around game 5 he started to like really take a turn and was like, all right, I'm going to my snatch back pull ups and I'm getting these shots off. Like,
Yeah,
and
he was really like in a bag. Yeah.
in a bag, like, and he was going to be efficient with it, and you could just tell he was pretty determined. But then what else gave me confidence was some of those lineups they were throwing out there with, like, whether it was inserting Terrence in or like Luke Kennard they had, like, defensively, I thought those guys kind of brought a spark. And whether that was because they were switching lineups with not having Zubats out there or whatever, I just thought that they defensively looked like a whole different team. Like those first two games, like even if they were to win those games, it would have been like outscoring. Like it wasn't like the defense that they were playing, I thought, in the last final two games. So the defensively kind of like showing that they can be more versatile with their like wings off the bench, and then Kawhi getting in the groove, like I would feel pretty good as a Clippers fan.
Yeah. One more thing, just to touch on that series, like, so it was interesting. Luka was the guy, and he is the guy. He's always going to be the guy. But Dallas really doesn't have anyone else that's going to create or do anything off the dribble.
Right.
So, but Utah has Conley, they have Donovan Mitchell, they have Joe Ingles, they have a bunch of guys that can create off of pick and rolls, can ISO, what have you. And so, like last series, Patrick Beverly, he was too small for Luka, and like he didn't have a place on the court. But not, and that gave a chance for like a Luke Kennard to come in and you know, not. I mean, he was pretty good defensively when he was in there, but he's not a defender. He's been picked on all year. So now in the Utah series, there's way more guards that will give him problems. Whereas you may need a Patrick Beverly to come in and chase a quicker guard like a Mitchell or a Conley, where a Luke Kennard maybe won't be that guy. But it's really just going to come down to, like you said, there's going to be a whole bunch of adjustments to be made like every series. And like even Rondo was benched like the last two games. Like one thing I like about Ty Lue is that he's not afraid to go with something else, like if something's not working. So in terms of Zubac and Terrence Mann, Luke Kennard, Patrick Beverly, like it's just going to be whoever's playing well, which is interesting. I mean, it's good to be, to have that adaptability, but I don't know. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a fun series, and I think it's going to be a coaching battle, like between him and Coach Snyder.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. When you bring up Pat Bev, I was thinking about Rondo kind of having a reduced role in the Dallas series. Can they play Pat in the Utah series with the way Utah shoots the ball, or do you need that much shooting out there to? Like, I feel like Rondo can. Rondo's going to play more because of the matchup. Like he can match up with Conley. He can even guard Donovan Mitchell, and he shoots it better than Pat Beverly does. So I think you need the shooting out there. So I think like Luke Kennard, Reggie Jackson, those guys still need to play for LA because I think Utah's going to score. I don't think the Clippers can hold them down that much to where you can play like an ISO, where you can kind of like let Kawhi and PG kind of play the ISO game and pick matchups. You know what I mean? I think they're going to have to score. So I think they're going to need that, like Kennard shooting. What was he, like 40+% in the regular season?
40 something on the season, yeah.
Yeah, like he's gonna have to shoot it well. Reggie Jackson hit a big three late in that game, in Game 7 yesterday. Like he's gonna have to shoot it well. Marcus Morris has to be able to hit shots because he's gonna get exposed a little bit on the defensive end in this series. Like they're just not gonna be able to like bully, play as much bully ball in the Utah series as they did in the Dallas series because there's not as many matchups to pick on. I don't think. Do you think that?
I think that the guys for Dallas, they were just really long. Like those lineups that they throw out with Boban and Kristaps and Dorian Finney-Smith and whoever else you had out there. That's why they went to that zone that the Clippers couldn't get. I mean, they couldn't really pass either. There's just so much length out there. As individual defenders, Utah is much smaller. Royce O'Neal, Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley. Like it's a completely the Clippers are going to be the bigger team, which they weren't at all in the last series. So that might help them in terms of shot creation or, getting to their spots. But Utah is going to be moving around much quicker. Rudy Gobert's defensive player of the year probably. Like they're going to be they're going to be better coached on defense to take away what the Clippers have. Like, I also don't think you're going to see as much iso ball, bully ball, hunting matchups and whatnot because Utah is more solid. So yeah, I'm going to look out for that as well. I think that your point about Rondo, like we talked about, Dallas went to that zone and they're so long that Rondo is basically just having to be a shooter. He can penetrate, no pick and rolls, nothing. So he kind of got exposed when his jumper wasn't going in. And I mean, the same can be said about Patrick Beverly. He's basically just a spot up shooter offensively. He's not a point guard. Yeah, he shoots around 40% every year from three, although it doesn't seem like it. But he has a really slow release. He's opportunistic. He's small, so length kind of bothers him. So just the way that they have to manage and also the other guards just played better. Like Reggie Jackson was a better player in the last series.
Yeah.
Terrence Mann was a better player. Luke Kennard in his minutes was better in those last two games. So it just comes down to whatever you want to roll with. And I think that those guys will get their opportunity since they helped earn that win. But then you also have the veteran players in Rondo and Pat Bev that could provide something, especially Rondo, playoff Rondo. He has a name for a reason. So yeah, that's gonna be the key of the series if the Clippers want to win. Just how they're gonna manage those guards, in my opinion.
No, I think you made a good point about Ty Lue though, because he has that. I mean, he's got that championship experience with Cleveland, first of all, but he also knows how to mix and match from game to game and make adjustments. And I think I think you saw that in this series with Dallas, maybe more than you would have. And this isn't like a knock on Doc, but I think it shows where Ty Lue's a little bit better than him in that area, was not necessarily just trusting your dudes to play better in certain situations so much. Like, you'll make adjustments based on, what happened last game or what happened in a quarter. Like, he's not afraid to change things up and see what works. You know what I mean? And I think that's going to be something that gives the Clippers an edge in this series, because I don't know how, as much as I think Quinn Snyder's a really good coach, I don't know how much adjusting Utah can do. They kind of are who they are, like they have.
I agree.
They do what they do with the guys who do it well. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. They're not going to be able to adjust to LA the way LA can adjust to them. I think what I mean?
Right.
I agree.
And LA proved last series they can go big or small. It doesn't matter.
That's what I was saying. That gives me more confidence about the Clippers because, even especially like what you were saying about Ty Lue, like last year they were just, when they collapsed to the Nuggets, it was like they played
the same story every game.
Yeah, it was the same game. It was the same game every single game.
This series was like, you could see how they were adjusting, whether it was player or Ty Lue, like making some different lineup change or whatever. You were like,
ball screen coverages were different. Luka never got the same look.
They were good with that. So I'm excited for this series. It'll be good
for sure. Yeah, I know. I like Utah. They kind of they did that classic 1-8 thing where they just kind of handled their business and then we're out of sight, out of mind while all these exciting series were
very quietly.
Out. Yeah. But that's a dangerous squad because they've been the best they've been the best in the NBA all year.
All year. Yeah.
And they've got that home crowd too. Like that adds a lot to the playoffs. Like, it's tough to play there. They're good. Yeah. They're really good.
I actually listened to, funny enough, not to go on a story tangent here, but George Niang, who went to Tilton School, he's from out here, and then went to Iowa State. I heard him on a podcast kind of talking about their Jazz team this year, and he was talking about how their guys bought in so early because if you look up and down their roster, it's all guys who are pretty taken care of. Like, no one's playing for a contract on that team. No one's worried. No one's in a contract year, anything like that. And so he was talking about how the Jazz team at the beginning of this year were I think they had dropped a couple games early, and they all were look, we could be very nonchalant about this. We're all taken care of. No one's playing for money. No one's in a contract year, whatever. We have to do this for each other. We have to really buy in. And he said that's what kind of fueled them to get on this little streak that they're on now, and what obviously led them to be number one in the West. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know, that kind of hunger. I'm like, this could be good. If they really come out there, this is the year that the Jazz are going to win.
and they've got last year in the back of their minds, I'm sure too. Like
Yeah,
they want to
but that
change
definitely
that.
was but that's
You
the
know,
fuel point because it was like
it's kind of like an underdog thing.
they last year were just like, okay, we lost, but like it was like who was mad about that, and they kind of like brought that up a lot
Mm-hmm.
in what I've heard this year.
Yeah.
So we'll see if they keep that edge.
Well, they were the first one to lose to 3-1 Denver, so they found that
Mm-hmm.
out. They found that out before the Clippers did. So like these two, I think that's another good part of it. Like these two teams are both motivated based on last year's kind of a collapse, if you will. Like Utah had the 3-1 lead first and they lost it. LA drew more headlines because it was Kawhi, PG. They were supposed to run the show. They had a 3-1 lead and the Lakers were next, like all that kind of stuff. So
Right.
that's been fueling LA, but it also has fueled Utah to an extent because they've played with that edge all year. It looks like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
that's going to be, I wouldn't be surprised if that one, like we saw the LA Dallas series go, 3-3 all the way to the end, but everybody won on the road. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if LA Utah goes 7 with all the teams taking care of home court. Like, you know what I mean? It just becomes too difficult.
Yeah, well, man, what's up with the Clippers? They only they don't feel a home court advantage.
Hey man, I'm not. You can't ask me. I have no idea. I know that if they make it to a game 6, which would be June 15th, that in California, all the restrictions are lifted and they got full capacity.
Ooh.
So that's if they
June
make it to
15th?
game 6.
I didn't know that.
So Staples will be lit on June 15th. Huh? Okay.
That's their plan, I'm sure.
All right. I love the West though. Like, so Phoenix and Denver. I love this matchup, but I hate it too because Denver isn't at full strength. And
imagine if Jamal Murray was on this team.
Man.
Him and Devin Booker would have a Donovan Mitchell and Jamal Murray.
God, could you just imagine?
Just like last year. Oh.
Dude, I don't know. I was reading Cole's article on The Athletic, and I kind of agree. Like, I didn't feel like Denver was going to get out of the Portland series, and they did. And I'm getting
that's just how they are.
I know, but I'm getting the same thoughts going into this one. I don't know how they're going to beat Phoenix.
I don't know how they are either. They have great coaching, I guess is what it is. Like they just always figure it out.
Shout out Michael Malone.
Yeah, Michael Malone. Sorry,
Michael, please.
Michael Malone.
Yeah, right, Michael.
Yeah, Michael Malone can coach his ass off for sure. Like, but I just, how are they gonna?
Yeah, it's hard to see. It's hard to see. Do you think that Chris Paul will be a better version of himself this series now that he's a little bit more healed and rested, or will that just continue to hinder him?
I mean, I think it's going to hinder him a little bit, but I think he's going to be better. I think it's going to get better as it goes. I think we saw that in the last series, like that. It kind of was one of those weird fluky injuries, but it seemed to get more manageable as the series went on, which is counter to, conventional wisdom. Yeah. So I think he'll be better than he was this last series, which is, again, trouble for. I don't know how Denver deals with that. And from a matchup standpoint, even like, and then you have your auxiliary part with Murray out seems to be Michael Porter Jr., but he's going to have to deal with Jay Crowder most of the time.
He's so interesting to me. Like we know what he can be as a scorer, and like with his size and his skill, it's just we never know if we're going to get it or not. But when we get it, we get it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I'm wondering how consistent he can be, like as that second option because that's gonna be the thing, right? Because Jokic is gonna be Jokic, but Porter Jr. he's got to help him out because I don't know if the rest of the team can do so much scoring. They can get hot. I mean, Austin Rivers hit some big shots, which he usually does. You can get a Paul Millsap game once out of every 5 or 6. You can get a game where Aaron Gordon randomly starts making threes, but it's not like something you'd expect every game from them. It's kind of like a your turn, my turn thing. So I think that'll be the key for Denver. Well, what do you think?
I agree. I said if they could get, I actually wrote it down, if they could get 3 good games out of Michael Porter Jr., like 3 positive games, I think they have a really good shot at the series. But it's because I think that's the difference of Jokic having 8 assists, like averaging 8 assists this series, or averaging over 10. Like I think if it's over 10, you're like, oh, the Nuggets. That means Austin Rivers had to be hitting shots. Whoever else he's kicking it to, who was it? Michael, like we were saying, Michael Porter Jr. hitting those threes. So I don't know.
Who's that 30-year-old rookie too? I don't even know his name.
Campazzo.
Yeah, Campazzo. That's right. Yeah.
What's his first name again?
I
always forget it.
Like
I think it starts with
Facu.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
Facu Campazzo.
By the way, him and Chris Paul are gonna have a very fun
that's gonna
time
be fun.
just being chippy and dirty with one another the whole series and flopping.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun to watch.
But yeah, to what you were saying, even about Chris Paul, I wanted to respond to that. I think I am confident in him because by the end of that Lakers series, he was back to his pull up at the elbow and talking his shit after, and I was like, okay. He wouldn't be talking all that talk if he wasn't confident in his go-to move and wasn't feeling all right. Because, I mean, if he can get – like, I think it was the game after he had initially hurt his shoulder that he got to that pull-up at the elbow, and you could kind of see him fading or, like, favoring one leg and a little bit more off balance, where by the time they closed that series out, it looked back to normal to me. I don't know.
So with 3 good games out of MPJ, you think that's –
yeah, but I don't.
That's enough for Denver, because they better win them then.
Right, but I don't know if it's just so, like we were saying, it's so hard with it. I don't know if I'm willing to if I have to trust Michael Porter Jr. for the Nuggets to win this series, then I don't know if I'm going to do that.
So here's I think you have to trust him to win it, to help you win it, because if he's just ordinary, Phoenix just proved they can. They're incredible defensively, but they only have to worry about one dude. You know what I mean? Once AD was hurt and done, like the way they defended every time LeBron had the ball, like it was like they didn't care about the other 4 Lakers on the floor. It was just a constant wall of like, we're walling off drives for LeBron. We're not letting him get to the rim. We're making him a jump shooter. Like if Bridges doesn't have to worry about a perimeter threat, he can help out Ayton. If Crowder doesn't have to worry about chasing someone around, he can help out Ayton. Like, they just have so many ways to stop Jokic in terms of like making his life difficult. And they already played the game where they're like, we're going to make the other 4 dudes beat us, and it didn't work for LA. I mean, it not only did not work for LA, it was like the minute AD was hurt, it was not even competitive anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's what I mean, though. How can I trust Michael Porter Jr. when they have so many, like they had enough guys to throw at LeBron to kind of contain him. Like, you think they're going to have trouble if Michael Porter Jr. is in that kind of situation? Like, I don't know.
That's what I mean. I don't know how Denver wins this series. Like, I'm not trying to, I know it's weird to say that Phoenix should roll because Phoenix is Phoenix, but this is a different Phoenix squad. You know what I mean? Like they're paving a different path, I think. So I understand it's like, it's like what Cole said, like he kind of worries a little bit in the back of his mind, no matter how well the Clippers are playing, that the other shoe's about to drop any second. That's the way it is with Phoenix, because you don't really trust them at this time of year yet because they haven't done it. But at the same time, the way they match up with this series, like Jokic can get his and they'll still be fine. They could still win easily, I think, in some games. Like if Jokic is getting, if he's around like, 30 and 10 a night, I still think that's fine. I still think they're okay.
Yeah, and that's honestly like that's the story of like most of these series, like the star player, if you allow the star player to go off but limit everyone else, like fine. Like the first series, like
dude, Luka had 46 and 14 yesterday, and they got run off the court.
But the difference was Tim Hardaway didn't have 30.
Yeah, right.
Like
exactly. Yeah. And that's why they were winning those first 2 games. That's why
they were winning those first 2 games.
Dorian Finney-Smith and
they
didn't do that
like
the rest of the series.
The Lakers series, like, when Dennis Schroeder would have 0 points or when all the other players weren't good, like it didn't matter what LeBron was going to do. It didn't matter how many points AD was going to score. Like if the supporting cast can't help out, then you're done. I mean, I think I touched on it in the Denver Portland series where like Dame would be going off. He'd have
Yeah.
40, 50 point games, but CJ McCollum would have like 17, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody else is able to get theirs going. But then the game like a Norman Powell has 28 or whatever it is, and
That's how they can get a game. Yeah.
exactly. It's really a. I mean, the superstars are going to do superstar things because they're that good, and they might be able to do that and get a win for a game or two. But I don't think over a series it's you can really play like that. And not to say that that's how they want to play, but yeah, I want to see who's going to guard
came out of it. We just came out of it with the Clippers Dallas series too, because the first two games in LA, Kawhi and PG were awesome. They were really
Mhm.
good. Like they put up numbers, they were efficient. They had all around games. And then Luka cooked, and then Tim Hardaway was like a 60% 3-point shooter. So that's why Dallas won those games, because
And Jalen Brunson was killing. And
Jalen Brunson was killing, right? Like the dudes around Luka were playing really well. That's why they won those first two games in LA, even though Kawhi and PG got
Right.
theirs. You know what I mean? So yeah, you're totally right, because the stars are gonna be stars. It's how much you can get from everyone else, and that's why I like Phoenix and Utah a whole lot, because they're not star driven. You know what I mean? They have stars. They like Book can go for 40 plus. Donovan Mitchell can go for 40 plus and drop 10 dimes or grab 10 rebounds. But they've got like other guys who can score.
That's not what they go into each game planning to do.
Exactly.
I got you.
It's like their superstars, their fallback. I get that. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's why the Clippers, that's why the like Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris and Luke Kennard,
Terrence Mann, they're all
those guys have to play well in this series, like better than they played last series, because Utah's a different animal. I mean, they have too many ways to beat you. So, but yeah, the two West series, like I could see them being like 4-0, 5 or 4-game, 5-game series, but really competitive games each time. Like, because I think Utah and Phoenix are the better teams in these series, but I could see, I could see like LA winning like in 5, because Kawhi has a fourth quarter that's just otherworldly, you know what I mean? And the rest of the game is competitive. So, and then with Phoenix, I could see, them having problems with Jokic through a quarter, through a half, and through the middle of the third, and then like all of a sudden they just lock in defensively, and Book goes off, and CP3 gets to the elbow and like starts making moves. Like it's just the fourth quarter seems to be like a different animal when you've got dudes who've been there and dudes who are stars. Like that's time for stars to shine. So I kind of favor Phoenix and LA because of that, because they've got killers. But it's gonna be. I think these series are gonna be competitive throughout. I don't think they're gonna be blowouts.
I think they're gonna be fun to watch too.
Yeah.
Like because they're gonna be competitive. At least you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do we think of the East so far? 2 games in for each series so far. Should we start with Atlanta, Philly first? Like the Trae Young show rolls on, but I don't know how you guys felt about it. They hit 23s, dude. Like, I mean, that doesn't seem like they can replicate that. They might be able to do it again, but like a whole series of that's crazy. Right. And I know they were up big, and even though it was close at the end, but like I don't know, man. If Embiid's playing, I don't know.
I'm honest. I'm ready for Ben Simmons to just start guarding Trae Young. Like that's what I really.
Why? Yeah.
Like, we need to get here. Like he said it I listened to some of the post game press conference after, and he's saying for the next game, like that's going to be the plan. I really hope that's not a lie, because that's what I want to see, and I want to see if he's still shushing the crowd after like a defender of Ben Simmons' size like can try to cause problems for him. I don't know.
I just don't want to hear any more about Ben Simmons like defensive player of the year type of.
If he's not until he's guard, yes,
that's what I'm saying. You're in the playoffs now. If you can't clamp the other team's best player at least 1 or 2 times a series, I don't want to hear about that anymore. You know what I mean?
And it's not like he has a ton of responsibility on the other end.
That's what I'm saying. Yes. Yeah. I'm game 2 is going to be like, I'm not going to miss a second, because I'm going to count times that Ben
Yeah.
is like at
Who
least
started on
marking.
him? Did Danny
least
Green start
marking
on him or
Trey.
Thibault?
I think they had Danny, right?
Yeah, Danny was on him first.
Danny started, and then they threw Thibault on him a little bit, but I mean, Thibault, you want some type of shooting, so or even you want your shooters out there. It's Thibault subbed for Danny Green,
Right.
and so it was like you kind of want the shooting ability of Danny Green out there with Ben Simmons. You don't want Ben Simmons. You don't want to run out Ben Simmons and Thibault lineup where it's like
right.
you're getting no 3-point threat from either of them. So they just need to put Ben Simmons on him and then rock out with Seth and Danny.
I agree. The way I see it is Ben Simmons should be guarding him because he has the length, athleticism to make things really difficult for someone as small as Trae Young.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, Trae Young's not stupid. He's just going to call for a ball screen and put Embiid in the action. And that's going to set a whole bunch of things off where is Embiid going to sit in the drop and Trae Young is going to snake it or pull up or get to his floater or whatever, or is he going to overextend and then you create a 4-on-5, 3-on-4 or whatever it is. So, but Ben Simmons at the end of the day, he should be on there. Like that should be the least of your concerns. Like if things happen after that, then you adjust. But you can't allow someone as good as Trae Young and as he has so much usage for the Hawks team for their offense to create and do stuff that you kind of have to. You can't let him get going and be comfortable early. You got to make him. I mean, it's his first playoff experience. You got to give him a bunch of different looks and make things difficult. And Ben Simmons has to do that. We'll see what adjustments Doc Rivers makes. He's not known for making a ton of them.
What I'm saying. We just talked about that.
Yeah, he kind of just sticks to his guns, and which is good and bad. But yeah, we'll see. I don't want to see any more like full bench lineups either. He always does that no matter what team he's coaching, and you got like especially in the playoffs, you got to have your guys out there. At least one or like Simmons or Embiid should probably always be on the court no matter what. In my opinion, barring any foul trouble or injury, like they you can't have a George Hill, Shake Milton, Dwight Howard, whatever lineup for especially for long periods of time, because the other teams have their stars on the court too, and they're still going to make you pay. So
funny you brought that up. I hadn't even thought about that, but Doc has been known to do that. But I'm thinking in Boston when he used to do it, like it used to work where he would bring like your Eddie House, your big baby off the bench, and then you have some vets in there. But that was 10, 12 years ago. Like that doesn't work in the NBA anymore.
Also, it didn't work as well as it should have because Boston only won one title out of that whole squad. Okay, so like it was set up for a run and they only got one. So like you know what I mean? There was problems there already.
Kendrick Perkins just got hurt. We would have had two. Sorry, but it did.
I think so too.
Kendrick Perkins doesn't get hurt.
I'm just saying, but
I will argue that for the rest of my life.
Okay, but that run wasn't like.
I digress.
Okay, they didn't put together like a. They
were good from 08 to 2012. Don't lie.
But you also had Tibbs on staff too,
right?
So that's like you had two NBA head coaches.
Right, but I just meant
two stubborn non-adjustment NBA head coaches too. By the way, like
right.
So,
but I just think that was even when Boston had the big three, like he would make lineups. Obviously, you'd keep one of them out there. I remember he would throw lineups where like he would start to put Ray at the one and things like that, and that's why him and Rondo would be. But I think more often than not, he would really do the whole sub by committee and have like a bunch of bench guys where. I forget all the dudes, but it was really like the Eddie Houses, your Tony Allens, your Big Baby.
It was a goon squad. I remember
like a PJ Brown, Leon Poe, like those guys. He was putting those whole lineups in, and then he would sub Paul in maybe halfway through or 5 minutes in, something like that. But
I remember when he had one guy like Clothesline Heinrich in that series where it was like John Salmon was the best Bulls player.
Was that Rondo?
I think it was the year KG was hurt. But
Rondo like, clothesline Heinrich.
No, it was James Posey. James Posey clotheslined him. Yeah.
Oh, I remember Rondo and Heinrich getting ready to fight.
James Posey.
Yeah.
James Posey. NBA coach now.
Right. Yeah. James Posey like lit him up on a transition break. Like, whoa. Yeah. That was like the end of that was like the and then when Rondo when Rondo and Wade got into it that one series. Like that was like the end of like physical play where you
I
could hurt
miss it.
somebody on the court.
I miss it.
Yeah,
I miss it. It
but
was fun to watch.
that's yeah. So he said like it was PG. It was Paul Pierce, Ray. Then KG got hurt, so it was like a bunch of goons after that. It was like Rondo, Pierce,
Rasheed
Ray.
Wallace in one of those series.
Yeah, Rasheed.
One of
Why
those
no?
years
Rasheed.
was-
Like, yeah,
We signed Shaq at the beginning of one of the years.
Now you
like,
see what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah.
Doc
my man.
Doc loves his vets.
Right.
oh, loves them.
Yeah.
He'll
Loves
get a
them.
vet for sure and trust
Just-
him to
just-
play like
just-
a lot.
Just to talk, like he signed Dwight Howard just so him and Dwight could talk all season about 2009 when they went at it in like the finals, like or before rather.
Yeah.
Before.
But that's the recipe. Like LeBron wins with like he'll take him, and then like a star, and then a good role player, and then like the rest of the roster is just goons. Like you go out there and you beat up everybody who's going to beat me up in this game.
Even when he was early days with Lob City Clippers, where he went and got like Matt Barnes and
Yeah.
Big Baby again,
Yeah.
like
He'd get every like former Celtic. He got Paul Pierce at one
Right.
point. Like
And
Paul Pierce was on the squad.
and he got JJ Redick to be his new Ray Allen. Like
Mhm.
it was and why? Because he was going at it with JJ Redick when they in Orlando again. Like
Yeah, that was the thing. Like any former Celtic or any player that had like killed the Clippers before or killed Doc before, he'd just go sign.
Mhm.
Yep.
And that was the end of his GM duties. You know?
Right.
He was just the head coach after that.
It was a simple formula for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now Brooklyn, Milwaukee. Then we'll get on to then we'll try to analyze.
I need help with this one. I need help with this one.
I mean, it's honestly,
gotta talk to me.
it feels to me like a really easy series if Harden isn't going to play. I don't, because I remember the last episode we did. I really liked Milwaukee already,
Mhm.
They were most impressive when we had that first episode.
and they lost this first game even though Harden got hurt right away. But I don't know. You guys know this because like basketball, you go into a game with a plan, right? And then if some dude that you're focused on in your scout gets rolls an ankle and like can't go or something, doesn't that throw you guys off? Even though they're technically worse now, the other team, it throws you off because you're preparing for
It's just
everything
not what
they
you
do
had.
after that.
Exactly. It's not what you had prepared for. So now it's like you throw a monkey wrench on the whole operation, you know? So now it's like, do we guard them the same way? Are they going to be more aggressive? Are they going to look for their shot more? You know, just, I don't know. It's in the spur of the moment too. So you don't really know how to react to it.
Yeah.
I would imagine that things will be different ahead of game 2 now that they know what they're going to have.
Because Harden's been ruled out for game 2. Like I don't have to say anything further, but out for.
Yeah.
So Milwaukee knows to prepare now without Harden, basically.
Right.
At least for this game.
And like I'm also one that thinks Milwaukee is going to win this series. I kind of agreed with you before, just because they had so many defenders that they could throw out there. I didn't really know how Brooklyn would guard Giannis. But like Milwaukee's not going to shoot as poorly as they shot from 3 last game.
Right?
They can't. And like Chris Middleton and Drew shot a crazy like 30% from the field combined or something like that. Like that could happen again, but I don't think that's going to happen every game throughout the series.
Yeah, can it happen 4 times is basically the question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the James Harden thing certainly, makes the series a little different. Hopefully he can get healthy by the time it's over, just for his sake and, then for Brooklyn's future chances. But I don't know. I usually don't tend to overreact to game 1s, no matter how they swing.
Yeah.
Just because, game 2, just everything could change within the second game. You could go 2-0 or it could go 1-1. You know what I mean? And then there's a whole nother set of questions and storylines. My biggest thing was coaching. Like Coach Bud doesn't exactly make adjustments either. Like they've
dating back to Atlanta.
Yeah, dating back to Atlanta. And then, in the Toronto series a couple years ago where they were up 2-0 and then they let go of the rope. He didn't make any adjustments. And last year with the Heat, they completely just did what they wanted to and Milwaukee had no answers. So like, I'm really interested to see what he comes up with if he actually plays his main players enough minutes, which is a thing with him. Because Steve Nash is a first-time head coach as well. So you kind of want to back him into a corner and make him,
put the pressure on him.
Put the pressure on him.
Mm-hmm.
So that those two things,
especially because Nash doesn't have enough pieces to play with in the first place, because depth is an issue for them. So
exactly.
There's only so many answers he has in the first place that aren't, hey, KD, Kyrie, can you go save our ass? Like that's, you know what I mean? So.
Yep.
Yeah.
What do you think of Blake? Do you think Blake Griffin can repeat his? Yeah.
He was really good.
Whatever this is.
I don't know.
Like that he's on.
It was. Go ahead.
So I think with Blake, I think he can, but I think this series is going to end up like it's going to be more moments in the end of the game where they're going to put more pressure on him, and I just don't know if he's going to be. I don't know if he's going to be in late game situations like that where they can even do that. So I think he'll get he could definitely average like 10 plus a game in the series, but I don't know if it's going to be as effective as it's been in the past series in game one.
The game wasn't that out of hand, you know what I mean? And Middleton and Drew were bad. I don't know if you can get both of them bad at the same time 3 more times in this series.
Not that bad.
I think you need to have. I mean, Giannis and like Drew like combined, it was like 10 times 8 turnovers between the two of them. You know what I mean? That's not going to happen again, right? Mm-hmm. They're not going to shoot that bad from 3 again, are they? 4 or 3 more times.
Even hit a shot.
Middleton didn't hit a 3. He was like 0 for 6, I think.
Remind me, who did they have starting out on Harden? I don't remember if it was Drew or I thought it was, but I don't.
Well, it was only that one. He only had that one possession where he ran down. It was in transition too. I don't even know who they had on him because he was in. Yeah. It was he grabbed the rebound and he was running, and he went to the rim and he pulled up the hammy. So I don't even know how they were matching up. I have no idea. Yeah.
I don't know. It just makes me think to your earlier point, like about if Drew Holiday was getting ready to guard James Harden for 40 minutes, and then he was like, "Oh wait, I just have whoever." Like this change. I thought I was about to be locked in defensively for the next 40 minutes, and now I can like shoot. Like might have threw him off a little bit. That's what the comparison. Actually, I thought when you initially said it, because this is a Creighton-centric podcast, so let me get my M with Cole on. Reminds me of the game Maurice went down. When Maurice went down at Xavier. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
And we threw like 3 different point guards in. We tried Davion, TC, Zierden, and Xavier was like, "What? Who? What are they doing? They're playing point guard by committee? Like they've never done this all year." And
what's this dude's strengths? Where's this dude like to go? Like
obviously it was really two. We won the rebounding battle at the end of that game, especially on the offensive end, I remember. But like that confused them because we were so heavy, like Maurice runs the show, that once we like slowed it, because I remember Isaiah was like walking it up. Mac was like, "All right, we're gonna really change it." So he was even walking it up, and then Xavier was like, when we went from as fast as we were playing with Maurice to not, like that threw them off. So I think it's a little bit of the same you were saying here for.
It's like a quarterback.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's like the quarterback that comes in for the injured player midway through the game and just lights it up, but then in the next 3 weeks he sucks. Because people have film on him now.
yeah. Like a couple of years ago when you guys went to Nova without Ty. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Remember you had Caleb walk the ball up. Like Creighton, you did not run once that whole game. And it was
first game I checked into the first half.
That's right. You did check in the first half of that one. That's right. Yeah, that's what I mean. Villanova was not ready for any of that. You know what I mean? They're like, "Oh, Ty's banged up. He might play. He might not. He's warming up. He might give it a go." But Creighton's still going to do Creighton. Like we know what they're going to do. No, they played totally different. Walked the ball every time. 60 possession game, just like Villanova would want it, and it went to overtime.
Had him.
Yeah,
had him. Caleb hits those 2 free throws, we win, but it's all right. No hate. Love you, Caleb. Love you, Caleb.
You said that. I didn't bring that up. That's
Caleb over here catching strays.
Catching
crazy.
No, I say it to him all the time. It's all right. He knows.
He knows. Okay. Well, But that's the point, though. Like if that stuff happens in a game, if you scrap a game plan to that degree, like think about the examples we've laid out so far. Maurice being the guy who runs the whole show for Creighton, Tyshawn being like the leading scorer on the team, James Harden being the guy who just facilitates everything for Brooklyn, like the primary ball handler, just one of the toughest guards in the league. Like Milwaukee probably just wasn't, just couldn't find their footing in terms of how do we guard this team now. It just became a basketball game, just like a Rucker Park basketball game, and they got KD and Kyrie. So
no, because to that point, your game plan with and without James Harden is drastically different. Like defensively.
I would imagine so. Yeah. So I still like Milwaukee in this series, even though the headlines are probably like, man, Brooklyn won game one without Harden. Wow. Like I still don't think I think Milwaukee's in a better spot going forward, obviously, but they're not going to shoot that bad again. I don't think. I think Middleton and everybody. I think everybody across the board. Bryn Forbes. I think he'll play better. Lopez was okay, but you guys have asked already. Will Blake Griffin go for 18 and 14 every night in this series? Like,
I don't think so. But like what he was like part of his why he was productive though, he was just playing hard, like just getting rebounds and diving on loose balls and stuff. Like he can do that stuff again. He might make an open 3 or 2, but I don't know if it'll amount to 18 and 14.
Right.
But
I just don't see his, because these games are, like we're saying, they're good. These games are going to get much closer now that Milwaukee makes these adjustments, and I think when they do, I don't think that he's going to have like effective points where it's like go ahead twos, and when it's time to like actually go, I don't know. I don't see it happening, but we'll see.
Let's talk about some of the losers. So Dallas going forward with Luka. It sounds like Rick Carlisle's.
Thank you for saying Dallas first. That's so kind of you.
Oh, no problem. I'm saving you for
the best for last.
Yeah.
even though Boston was the first team out of this shit. So.
Yeah, but they're going to be the most. There's a lot of meat on that bone, so I want to chew on that one later. So.
Oh yeah.
But Dallas with Luka going forward, like you're watching this series, and Kawhi and PG are two of the most disruptive perimeter, like two-way guys in the league, right? We agree on that.
Mm-hmm. And PG not as much as he used to be, but
for sure,
still
I'll give you that.
Sure.
Yeah. And Luka still like was a problem to the point where this series could have gone to either team. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So Dallas has to think they're close if they can just find some kind of group of players to help Luka out, right? Like, where do they start? Because they can't. They're probably going to try to extend Luka next, right? They got to give him his rookie extension. Like it's gonna be record breaking, whatever it is. But they have to be able to build around him. So
what are you trying to do if you're Dallas? Like, do you want Luka to have a guy out there who's going to take the ball out of his hands? Because Luka plays like a James Harden in Houston or a LeBron in Cleveland. Like he's gonna have off the ball. He's not doing nothing, and he's so good with the ball that he's going to create for everybody else. And you want him to have the ball all the time, which is why, like, I don't know, Porzingis. I feel like he should be better, and it's not working out in Dallas. And a lot of that has to do with injuries, him just being a jump shooter, him not playing great, but he really just spots up at the 3-point line while Luka operates. You know what I mean? So, like, what kind of player are you looking for to complement Luka would be my question. Because you play a dangerous game with taking the ball out of his hand and, him not really doing much else. But also, you saw in this past series, like, if he has to do too much for too much of the game, he gets tired.
Yeah.
Like, he wears down towards the end. So, I don't know what direction they want to go offensively to help him out. But I think it starts with, I don't think the Porzingis thing is going to work. Like, but I don't know how movable his contract is either. Pretty sure he's on a max. I don't know if he's just going to want him.
Well, you know who I've been thinking of like the last, I don't know, day or so. It's like, and if people listen to this, they know how I feel about the dude, but I think Zach LaVine might be a good piece for Luka because I'm just looking up his contract real quick. I'm pretty sure it has 1 year left on it. Yeah, next year he'll be a free agent after this next season, basically. Like, does Dallas move pieces for him? Like, send some expiring contracts to Chicago, get LaVine, extend him, and let him, because he's a guy who can play off the ball, and he can, like Cole said, spare some possessions for Luka to kind of get rest on the court, and even longer rest on the bench. You know what I mean? If you have like, you start the game with a Luka heavy attack, you get him his rest, start the second quarter, and let Zach, kind of run the show a little bit. He's capable of doing that at a high level. I think he makes a lot of sense for Dallas, because I just don't know. He doesn't make sense in Chicago anymore, because he's not a guy you want to build a franchise off of at this point in his career. You kind of want to send him somewhere else to get assets back for him. And he only has 1 year left on his deal. And it doesn't make sense for Chicago to try to, sign him to a long-term deal, because he's not that guy. He's a like, to borrow the old phrase, like, he's a Robin, not a Batman. Right. So I think he makes a lot of sense for Luka as a guy who could help Luka get to the next level in the postseason, with just giving him a break every now and then on the floor, and not let him, have so much attention defensively. Because I mean, he, as much as I've dogged him throughout his Chicago career, like, he has elevated his game to become a more efficient, high level scorer in this league. So I think he would be a good part for Dallas to pursue, knowing that he's on an expiring contract with Chicago. Maybe he won't be as expensive for the Bulls to offload, especially since the Bulls know they might not get him back, get anything back for him, I should say. So I don't know. That's one guy I was thinking about since the game ended yesterday. I was like, I mean, that kind of is a matchable partner there in the offseason. If Dallas wants to make a move to get Luka some more help, I think Zach LaVine makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm guessing by the silence, I just blew all your minds, right? Was that the perfect thing right there?
I'm trying to think of I'm trying to think of Porzingis, Vucevic, and then Markkanen still there. But I mean, I know he's going to be a restricted free agent, so I don't know what they're planning on doing with him.
Yeah.
I was just trying to figure what they would do with that. I mean, you would have better insight on that than I would. But I mean, Porzingis is essentially a 4 anyways. He's not. I mean, he's a perimeter player, so I guess it wouldn't matter too much.
Yeah, I struggle with, I don't know what kind of play. I don't know if it's, I don't know what position complements Luka's style of play right now. I think that's where I'm having a hard time trying to be like, okay, because I see.
So isn't it upgrade Hardaway, right? Isn't that what we're talking about? Make Hardaway a bench player, and then he's better.
Right. But like, I see what you're saying though, but like, I worry because you're saying they're playing you have lineups with them together. Like, I wonder how that's going to work.
Well, it's the same I mean, they've got Tim Hardaway Jr. as like the pop guy, basically. Like, he's getting Luka's dimes, but he's not that guy. He's come off the bench and get you hit a couple shots, play with that first rotation.
So you like him more? You like him more in like a Jordan Clarkson type role? Yeah, just come in and just do your thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Am I off base on that? Do you guys think?
No, no, you're not.
I don't think
okay.
So.
I think that was the series, was him being like what we talked about yesterday when the game was going on. Was Terrence Mann was going off. I was like, that's a good sign for the Clippers, right? I was like, yeah, but the better sign is that Tim Hardaway Jr. keeps shooting and missing, because that's who the Clippers want to beat them in this game, and he's not doing it.
All right.
So that's the whole like conundrum for Dallas this offseason, is find us a guy who, when the other teams say someone other than Luka, can make them pay for it. And I think Zach LaVine is the perfect dude for that, because then you make Tim Hardaway Jr. better you make him more valuable by putting him in a reduced role, a role that isn't as important. He'd be a good bench piece on a championship team, a championship level team, but he's not a number 2.
He's not. He's certainly not number 2.
That's what I'm saying. Like he's not a number 2. But he had to play like a number 2 for Dallas to win any game in this series. Like when they won the first 2 in LA, like he played out of his mind. So he's not that can't win you a championship, but he can win you a championship off the bench. Mm-hmm. And Zach LaVine can win you a championship as a number 2.
As the number 4 option. Yeah.
Yeah. And Zach LaVine can win you a title as a number 2 guy. He can't win you one as a number 1, but a number 2 he can. So that's that's a perfect mix.
I'm hearing that.
So that's the one. That's the one I like. When I was thinking about when we were thinking about doing this, I'm like, what does Dallas need going forward? They need a number 2. Give me a trade partner. Give me an expiring contract. I think Dallas and Chicago should be talking a lot this offseason.
We gotta get Cuban on the phone.
That's what I'm saying, man. I could make this happen.
Shark Tank it.
Yeah. What's next? Oh, should we do the Lakers next? I mean, we kind of know what they are, right? Yeah. It's LeBron, AD, and then whoever they can attract, like to play with them, essentially. Like,
yeah.
How many vet minimums do you want? Like, how many guys want to take less money to win a title? It's that type of situation going on.
Cole, what do you make of Schroeder taking all the Lakers stuff out of his bio and everything for the last game?
I didn't even realize he did that
on all platforms, because you know how he started this whole YouTube channel since going to his YouTube
tough.
channel has blown up. His YouTube channel's blown up since he's gotten to Lakers, and so
he's a smart guy.
Had all his bios matched. It was like Twitter bio, Instagram bio, YouTube bio, all were point guard for the Los Angeles Lakers. And before Game 7, he took all of it out. He took all of it out.
Well, I mean, he shouldn't care, because before the season, he said he didn't want to go there. Remember?
That's right.
So, I mean, it is what it is. I don't think he's the starting point guard of a championship team or of the Lakers team that's trying to compete. I don't think he should be. He has his strengths and weaknesses, but I like him in that 6-man role that he was in at OKC, where he could just kind of come in and do what he needs to do for a certain amount of time. The rest of the team, I don't know, like, they had a really weird season. Like, why did they won a championship?
Yeah.
They won a championship and half their roster was gone. But but they could have retained almost all of them. They're all signed minimum contracts.
Dwight, everyone.
Dwight, JaVale. They traded Danny Green. Rondo, I think got maybe. I don't think he got a vet min. He might have gotten the whatever the next one is up from that. But like, they changed their whole team, and they changed everything that made them successful to bring in a smaller center like Montrezl Harrell, who they actually ended up not even playing.
Yeah. So
that's weird. Gasol, I mean, he's a shell of himself. He's still very smart and has IQ, but he can't move out there. He can't play too many minutes. The whole Andre Drummond thing, that was just a name. I didn't think he would ever fit in. Mm-hmm. Like, they've got a lot to figure out. I mean, KCP looked like he reverted back to who he was before he got to the bubble and turned into Ray Allen.
Man.
They have a lot of questions going forward. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to question LeBron ever, but like, he's starting to get injured more, whether it's his fault or somebody else is like landing on him.
His fault. He's getting old.
He's getting old. Yeah. 2 of the last 3 years.
It's not even like age; it's mileage too. He's played so many. Like, it's unbelievable.
And I don't know if it was just because of Phoenix's defense, but LeBron was just shooting jumpers really. Like, I don't know if he couldn't get downhill or if it was Phoenix wasn't allowing him to, but that's kind of just like who he was the last time we saw him. And I'm sure he'll be a lot better next year once he's healthier and more rested. But can you rely on him to keep being that guy and carrying the load? Like, AD, this should be Anthony Davis's time to, to be the guy and let LeBron kind of be the second fiddle to a certain extent towards the end of his career. But I don't know, he has a lot going on with him too in terms of injuries and whatnot. So they're gonna have to get creative. I don't know how much cap room they have. They'll probably have to like trade Kuzma or KCP or somebody, right?
Yeah, because the guys they got back next year Harrell's got a player option. I can't imagine they're picking that up.
No, I wouldn't imagine.
So it's LeBron, AD, KCP, Kuzma, and Gasol are on guaranteed contracts for next season. So everything everything else
signed a multi-year
is,
contract.
what's that?
Gasol signed a multi-year contract.
Yeah, he's on a 2-year deal.
Oh,
Okay.
And it's guaranteed.
Yeah, I think the Lakers' biggest problem was they just after that championship in the bubble that they were too put too much trust in just the LeBron AD thing and didn't made no moves because I had they had a committee like we were saying last year in the bubble where it was Danny Green and Rondo and whoever else KCP just was shooting the lights out and so that was that was instead of having LeBron AD third player they had it by committee and where this year when they didn't have that and I thought they might make a go for a guy maybe Bradley Beal probably too much on his contract but a guy like that where they could have another person to rely on when they couldn't rely on the rest of their roster. They just didn't do it, and they just put too much responsibility, I think, on LeBron and AD, and their bodies couldn't handle that really. And
I think they need to resign. I think they need to resign Alex Caruso too.
Yeah,
I think he's a big part of why they're elite defensively. I think he's a big part of it. So I think he's a guy they don't have back next year that needs to be. I think, but everybody else Kuzma definitely needs to go. I mean, that dude was a hot mess.
They could get something okay for him, I think, if they trade.
But I just don't think he fits there anymore. He doesn't fit. No. He's the way he the things he's good at don't play well off of a LeBron 80 offense. You know what I mean? When you got it's weird because he's a guy who has to get himself into a rhythm, and to do that you have to force some stuff. And LeBron doesn't like playing with guys like that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So So he's someone that can be. I think he gets dogged a lot. I think he can be a really good NBA player, but I just don't think he fits on this squad because, like I said, he kind of has to he has to do some crazy stuff every now and then to get himself into a rhythm in the game. And LeBron has a zero tolerance policy with that kind of stuff, so it just doesn't fit. Especially if you have AD too, who's a tough matchup offensively himself. So there's a lot of pieces that don't fit together right now. I'm amazed they won the title in the bubble. I think it's because they got Miami and didn't have to run into the Clippers. As weird as it says, the Clippers blew a 3-1 lead and whatnot, but
it's a matchup thing.
It's a matchup thing, right? The Clippers were a bad matchup for the Lakers. That was going to be an exposed type of series, I think, but it didn't happen. So the Lakers got Denver and they got Miami, and they didn't really have a matchup that made things difficult for them. They were the bullies the whole time, every series they played. So they kind of caught fire, lightning in a bottle in some sense there, but I think they have a lot of issues on this roster that don't necessarily, bode well for what's the end of LeBron's career essentially in terms of putting together title runs. They got to make a lot of changes, I think. Dude, we're gonna run out of time here, so we'll have to save Boston. We'll have to save Boston for the next round. A whole podcast on Boston, probably, but we'll
wait.
We'll
actually we're gonna need it. And
yeah.
God forbid they hire some head coach.
Yeah, they'll have a new head coach potentially.
Hopefully, right?
Yeah.
In theory.
Yeah, we'll get.
So who do we have left? Miami.
Yeah, we have Miami, Boston, Knicks.
York.
Knicks will be a fun one too.
Yeah.
So we'll tackle some of those as the playoffs go on. So yeah, Cole, we appreciate you hopping on and dissecting round one. You got a new gig since we last talked. Where are you right now? Tell everybody where you're at.
Yeah, I'm writing over at The Athletic. Just doing NBA and WNBA writing. For the NBA, it's really playoffs based right now. A lot of my content's playoffs based. And then I'm going to slide into some WNBA stuff pretty soon, just to, talk about the aces, talk about, any team really, just try to give them a little bit more exposure. And, they're playing some really good basketball. I don't know if you guys have been watching, but there's been at least 2 game winners in the past couple of days.
Dude, there's so
And
every game
we
goes to
need
overtime.
another.
Like, what's
we
going
need
on?
another podcast for that. We need another.
Yeah.
We need a WNBA podcast.
Dude, Enrique hit another third game winner.
She had
yesterday.
another one. She's amazing. Yeah, she had another one yesterday.
Clutchest player
I
ever.
don't want to go on a tangent.
Yeah,
We'll talk about this when we have another podcast and we hear Jordan's his 30-minute spiel on on the Boston Celtics. But yeah. So I'm over at The Athletic. I'm still doing writing for 213 Hoops and Franchise Sports Media. So yeah, if you guys are interested in the content, I usually post everything to my Instagram, or excuse me, my Twitter feed, which is at Cole Hoops. And yeah, that's about it. That's what I got going on.
Cool. Everybody check out his stuff. He just posted the Denver Phoenix preview today, so check that out. It's free. I already read it, so yeah, check it out. I think it's on his Twitter feed, so go to at Cole Hoops, and you'll see it there. So follow his work at The Athletic now. New job since he last came on the podcast. Maybe next week he'll be working for ESPN. Who knows? It's a start of a trend, I guess, somewhat. But we appreciate you hopping on and giving us some of your time. So we'll talk to you next series.
Whenever. Yeah, next series, I guess.
For sure. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Scurry and the Scrub. We'll be back at you. We don't really have a cycle for this. We're just like, whenever we got stuff to say, we just hop on Zoom and record it. So
as the playoffs get good, we'll be here.
Yeah. We'll see you when we see you. Thanks for listening, everybody.